Hello there. Welcome to another installment of Chuck's Captivating Chat. Here we are again, and thankfully things are going just a little bit smoother than they were last week when my laptop decided it wanted to start doing updates and would not let me do a YouTube live, and I had to get out the iPad. Well, here I am, back on the laptop, back on YouTube Live, and it's just fun to be here with all of you. Um, I look forward to doing this. And, when I started doing this maybe 10 months ago, I used to go through a whole lot of stage fright and nerves and, feeling I had to do all this preparation and be ready. And I've just since learned it's like talking with my friends. It's just almost like doing a Zoom conference or something. And I just get on here and start talking away and wait for my friends to come joining in. Um, I went to the opera last Wednesday night. I've been a few times before, but it'd been quite a number of years. This was Puccini's Turandot at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, which, of course, is where the Oscars used to be held from 1969 to around 1987 or so. I think it may have come back a handful of times. It began alternating in the 90s before they found their permanent home in Hollywood at what is now called the Dolby Theater. Used to be the Kodak Theater until the Kodak Corporation got into a lot of financial trouble because of the digital era, basically making cameras and camera film somewhat archaic. They've had to reinvent themselves, but they could no longer afford to pay the fee to have their name on the theater. So it's now the Dolby Theater, which, anyway, that's what it is. But it was a beautiful production. I understand it was $1 million production, a cast and crew of 342 people, um, sets that had been designed by David Hockney like 32 years ago and had been put away in storage, and I think pulled out a handful of times for productions around the world. But this was the first time it had been brought out again in Los Angeles. And I just sat there in my back balcony seat, taking it all in and just being mesmerized. I find even when people say they don't like opera, they're surprised because opera is grand theater. You've got great acting, you've got beautiful music, you've got a full orchestra, costumes, sets, lighting. It's a great art form, and it's an art form that combines so many different talents together. So that was probably the big thing that's happened to me in the last week. But today is the birthday of Judy Garland. Judy Garland, who would have been 102 years old today. A couple years ago, for the centennial, I did a special painting of Judy Garland, and I took it down to her gravesite at Hollywood Forever Cemetery. There's a beautiful mausoleum that was built just for Judy. I don't know if people know this. I know some do. Judy was originally entombed in New York. It was a decision based on what her husband at the time, Mickey Deans, wanted, but it was against the wishes of the children. Liza, Lorna, and Joey wanted their mother here in Los Angeles. And so finally, they negotiated something with Hollywood Forever Cemetery where they apparently agreed to build a beautiful mausoleum just for Judy. And it is something to see. Beautiful, beautiful pinkish marble. They have gates patterned after the gates to the Emerald City. And because I live a few minutes away, sometimes I just like to go there. It's like, I feel good because I love Judy, and it's just being close to her presence, even though I know I don't have to be at the grave to feel Judy. Her spirit is always around. But gosh, if I had thought beforehand, I would have gotten out the replica pair of ruby slippers I made. I'd hold them up right now because I have taken them to her grave and held them up and done photographs. And I was very meticulous with this. There was a book called The Ruby Slippers of Oz, and oh, hey, Joyce, thank you for joining. Yes, Joyce, you love the opera too. We're going to talk a little bit after the show, so I'll tell you all about the opera. But anyway, it had the diagram for how the ruby slippers were made, how the sequins were overlaid, how the bows were done, and they were originally size 6B, 1938 era women's pumps, and they were covered with the sequins. That's what 6 pairs of those were made for the production of The Wizard of Oz. So I searched high and low in thrift stores here in LA, and I found a pair of the pumps. Very hard to find those shoes, but I found them. And then I probably spent about $100 on ruby sequins, not real rubies, ruby sequins and rhinestones and what have you. And I spent 2 to 3 weeks just gluing those things on one by one by one. I know that the shoes that Judy Garland wore in The Wizard of Oz, they were stitched, but I am not skilled to do that. So I did them this way, but I managed to make one hell of a replica pair. And not to be morbid, but someone at the cemetery said that when people are entombed, it's head in and feet outward. And Judy is in a beautiful wall crypt. You know, I'm assuming she's like a few inches behind the marble slabs. So I held the shoes up to her feet, what remains of them anyway. And I just thought this kind of gives my shoes a little bit of authenticity. But for anyone who wants to get upset with me and goes, Chuck, that's disrespectful. No, it was anything but. It was done out of great love and reverence for Judy. And I have had friends who knew Judy, and she had a wicked, bawdy sense of humor. Trust me, from what I've been told, Judy would have just loved that, and she would have gotten the love for what I was doing. Might as well tell some Judy Garland stories. I was going to talk about Wizard of Oz, but I'm thinking about my friend Al Morley, who knew Judy Garland very well, or at least he knew her for about a 3-year period. They had a falling out, unfortunately, and as Al put it to me, well, I was in my drinking days, and Judy was in her drinking days, and we just had some bad words with each other, and that was that. But they were close for about 3 years. And the way they met, my friend Al Morley was close with Billy Barnes, the composer, and at the Coronet Theater on La Cienega Boulevard here in Los Angeles, they were putting on another installment of Billy Barnes' Review. People like Carol Cook and Ken Berry. I forget who else was part of the regular troupe. But anyway, they were rehearsing their show. They were going to go up in a couple of nights. There was a Mexican restaurant across the street at the time. This was back in 1961, around 1961. And to their utter amazement, in walked Judy Garland. And they were, oh! It's like God walked in the door. And Judy was like, oh, don't mind me. I just heard the most marvelous singing across the street, and I just had to come over here to see what was going on. And they were like, oh, Miss Garland, let's get you a chair. Oh, please. I got a folding chair for her and let her sit and let her watch the review. And they said Judy was the greatest audience. She was like, clapping and cheering for everyone. And after they were finished with the rehearsal, Judy pulled $500 cash out of her purse and said, I want to invest in the show. And Al and Billy were like, oh, no, Judy, we can't take your money. What's the matter? My money's not good. I want to invest in your show. So she invested $500 in the show and said, now, when's your opening night? I must attend your opening night. And they were excited. And they were also worried because this was a musical comedy review type of show. It was a takeoff on old Hollywood, magic moments in the movies. Well, there was one sequence Judy had not seen. Thankfully, she came in after they had already rehearsed the number. It was a takeoff on Mickey and Judy. A very, very wicked takeoff where it was popping pills and swilling down martinis and kind of drunk off her ass. And I'm Judy. No, it was like every stereotype of Judy Garland. And they were like, oh my God, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Do we keep the number in the show or do we take it out? And they finally thought, okay, we've got the show all set and rehearsed, and it's going to kind of throw off the show if we take it out. So we're just going to have to take our chances. So come opening night, Judy Garland showed up looking grand, looking like Judy. And Al took her by the arm and started to take her up to the front. So we have a seat up front for you. And Judy's like, are you out of your mind? I do not want to be recognized. People are going to see me if I sit up there. No, you're going to put me in the back row. And they was like, okay, well, okay. So they shuffled things around and got her a seat in the back row as she had requested, as she did not want to be seen, apparently, at least according to Judy Garland. But they proceeded with the show. The audience was responding. It was going over well. And then it was coming up to the Mickey and Judy number. And they were like, oh, God. They were holding their breath on that one. And I don't know which actress it was, but Al said she did a marvelous impersonation of Judy Garland. It was like wicked impersonation of Judy Garland, swilling her martinis and throwing the pills down her throat and everything, chain smoking and all the gestures and everything. And about a quarter of her way into the performance, they heard this voice from the back row. I hate you. I hate you. And then Judy had her program rolled up, almost like a bat, and she comes down the aisle. I hate you. I hate you. I hate you. I hate you because you're so wonderful and you're so marvelous. And Judy, who did not want to be seen, jumped up on the stage and started performing with the woman imitating her. And it was a big hit, and everybody was laughing so hard. And nobody laughed harder than Judy. Al assured me Judy Garland had a wonderful self-deprecating humor. She loved to make fun of herself. So the show did well, and I'm assuming Judy got her investment money back since it was a hit. And Al and Judy formed a friendship, as she did with Billy Barnes also. And let's see, one of the stories Al told me that I thought was really funny. It was a Saturday night in West Hollywood. And even back in those days, West Hollywood was, shall we say, a gay little town. And Santa Monica Boulevard was lined up with all of these gay bars. Well, Judy was in the car smoking, and she had her glass of vodka with her. And she goes in her purse and she realizes she's out of cigarettes. Oh, pull over. We must pull over. I have to have cigarettes right now. And they pull over, and it was a bar, I think, called the 4-Star. And keep in mind, this was a Saturday night, and this bar was filled wall to wall with gay men. And in comes Judy Garland. And Al said it was like, again, he used the term, it was like God walked in the door and the whole room hushed, quiet, with disbelief. It was Judy Garland. And Judy Garland goes, "Oh, don't mind me, boys. I'm just here for some cigarettes." And she goes to the vending machine, puts her money in, and gets her pack of cigarettes, and she leaves. And of course, waves to everybody, But she left her vodka glass with her lipstick print on top of the cigarette machine. And Al said the next Monday, in the front window of the 4-star was a little glass dome with with the glass inside of it, with the lipstick print, with a very neatly typed little card saying, "This was Miss Judy Garland's drinking glass, and she was here on such and such date Saturday." That's kind of a sweet story. And I'm trying to think, what else have I been told? I was told this was when Judy was doing her television show at CBS on Beverly Boulevard, CBS Studios, which, of course, in its heyday, that's where they used to do the Carol Burnett show and Danny Kaye show and Red Skelton. And they still do I think they still do The Price is Right from there and all. But anyway, Judy Garland had a variety series that lasted, unfortunately, 1 year. They did 30 episodes. And those shows are on DVD. The show is incredible. And you watch it and you just can't believe the show flopped. You had the chance to have the great Judy Garland every week in your home on your television set, and people decided they wanted to watch Bonanza instead on the other channel. But Al and Billy used to go to a lot of the tapings for that show, and they were telling me the story of and it's a well-known story. It was, Judy Garland was very close friends with John Kennedy. She called him Jack, as most of his friends called him. She adored him. She campaigned for him, raised money for his election. And it's been said that John Kennedy, whenever he would be really stressed out, he would get on the phone and call Judy up. He had her number. She had the number for the Oval Office also, I might add. And he would call her up and say, "Judy, sing Over the Rainbow to me." And she always would. Sometimes if he was in a hurry, it was like, "Sing 8 bars of Over the Rainbow for me." And she would do it. And she loved him very much. And it was the week of the assassination. And Judy was understandably devastated, as much of the nation was. She was devastated. She wanted to cancel the taping of her show that week. And the head of CBS, some cold-hearted bastard, said, "No, you will not cancel the taping of the show. You cancel this episode, your whole show is canceled and you're over, and we're going to sue you." I mean, so she had no choice but to do the show. And there was something she wanted to do. She wanted to sing the Battle Hymn of the Republic. And CBS said, no, you can't do that. That's too political. You can't do that. And she basically said, "The hell with it." And while it does not appear in the scene, I guess they either cut it out or it was just before she sang. But Billy and Al were in the audience. They heard Judy say, "This is for you, Jack." And please look it up on YouTube. Judy Garland show, Battle Hymn of the Republic. It is one of the most electrifying performances you are ever going to see in your life. Judy took all of her rage and she took her sorrow and her great love for John Kennedy, and she just poured her heart out into that song, and it just built and built and built and built. And Al said, people in the audience, you could just feel goosebumps. And it was just that electric. And then when she got to that final big note and belted it out, his truth, I'm not going to try to sing it, but his truth is marching on, Al said everybody jumped to their feet. And this was back in the days when standing ovations were kind of rare. They're kind of commonplace now, but in those days, a standing ovation really meant something. it was reserved for the best of the best, the quintessential best. And it was rare. Well, anyway, people jumped to their feet, and Al said this all got edited out of the show, but it went on for over 5 minutes. People were crying, people were cheering, because everybody was hurting about President Kennedy's assassination, and Judy just spoke for everyone, and sang for everyone, really. And so that was a great story, to talk to someone who was actually there, because it's been in her biographies, there's been documentaries about it, but it's something else to talk to somebody who actually experienced it and who could tell me about it. And, this is not such a big story, but I spoke to a woman once, I know she was on the level. She wasn't one to embellish or make up stories. She lived, people who live here in LA most of their life tend to be used to seeing stars and all, but she told me she was a teenager in high school, and she and her best friend got tickets for the Judy Garland show. And I remember her name was Beverly. And Beverly said, well, all those stories about how troubled Judy was and everything. Well, yeah, that taping should have only lasted a couple of hours. It went on until almost 2 a.m. because Judy was having so many problems and flubbing things. And then she would go off to her dressing room and not come out for a long time. And I don't think that was Judy being malicious or trying to be troublesome. I think she was so troubled, and she was in so much fear, and there was so much being demanded of her. Sometimes she just had to go to her dressing room, just be alone, to compose herself, keep her thoughts together, whatever she needed to do. But that she would come out. But anyway, the taping went on so long that they had to have a caterer come and bring dinner to the audience. And it finally finished by 2 a.m. Everybody was exhausted. The audience, the crew, Judy, everyone was exhausted. And Beverly and her friend were out in the parking lot at CBS. And if you're ever here in LA and you know the CBS building, it's a great big massive parking lot that surrounds the building. And most of the cars were gone. And Beverly and her friend were there alone, and they were going to their car. I guess they were a little worried what their parents were going to think because it was so late. But they saw Judy, very tired, humped over the parking lot, just smoking her cigarette like that, and just like tired. But she saw the girls, immediately dropped her cigarette, took her foot, stomped it out, smashed it out. She didn't want the girls to see her smoking. And Judy lit up. Oh, hello. Thank you for coming tonight. Now, I'm worried about you. It's so late. Are you okay? Are you going to get home all right? And they assured her, and they said, now, did you like the dinner? Was the dinner good? Now, did you get enough to eat? They said Judy was like a mother. She was so sweet and so nurturing and caring. She had such a heart. So that was the other story I heard. And then, I'm going to tell a few more stories here. Might as well include everything in this edition of what I know from personal Judy Garland stories. I collect, as you see, I have some behind here. I have other rooms. I have a big collection of old Hollywood star memorabilia pieces, signed photos, and so forth. And there was a man I bought a Greta Garbo signature from once. His name was Charles Williamson. And we got into a conversation, and Judy came up for whatever reason. I don't remember. This was like 30 years ago. And he said, well, I live in the old George Cukor mansion, and Judy Garland was my friend. And he said, oh, and if you want verification, the Gerald Frank's biography, Judy, I and my partner, we're mentioned in that book because we were interviewed for it. Judy was our house guest for 3 months. And this was in 1968. And of course, Judy died in summer of 69. So this was the beginning of the last year of her life. Judy was flat broke. at the time. And some people I tell the story to go, oh, I don't believe that. She wasn't flat broke. No, she was. Judy owed something like $4 million to the IRS. And she had so many outstanding bills, like to hotels and limo services and what have you. I mean, she owed millions of dollars. In fact, after her death, Liza, she personally worked to pay off her mother's debts out of concern for her mother's her dignity, her reputation. That was important to Liza, which was a beautiful thing. She worked very hard, and it took her years to pay off those debts. But anyway, Judy was basically homeless at this point. And this was verified to me. Charles Williamson told me this, and that's why she was sleeping on friends' couches and staying in guest rooms. And one of the final indignities, because she couldn't pay her hotel bill when she was touring, they confiscated all of her gowns, all of her belongings she had in her hotel room, but this included the trunks with all of the sheet music, all of her orchestrations. She couldn't perform. And anytime she would perform, the IRS would just take it all away from her. They would just suck it all away from her. So she was being left destitute. And they told me, this is the truth, all she had was a shopping bag with 2 skirts and 2 blouses. That's all she had. And she was staying in their guest room. And Charles even laughed about it. He said, well, one of those skirts was a pleated skirt. And every time she wore that damn thing, they had to send it to the dry cleaners to get all those pleats professionally pressed. So it was kind of high maintenance, but they adored her. They said that when Judy would swim in their pool, she'd take a t-shirt and fasten the crotch with one of those big baby diaper safety pins. That's what she would swim in. And they said that when she would go to sleep at night in the guest room, they took me in the guest room where it was. I got to see where she stayed. They said, keep in mind, this was the final year of her life. Her body was starting to give out. I suspect she was starting to have congestive heart failure. I think her liver was going out, but they said that when she would go to sleep at night, it sounded like somebody dying. It would be like, it was almost torturous to hear her trying to go to sleep at night. That was an observation. And they said Judy was very smart, very self-aware. She knew about her drug addiction. She was in no denial about that. None. If you know a lot of addicts, they are. She was in no denial. And she would say, I hate these damn things. I hate them. I want off these pills so bad. And I can't do it. I can't do it. And of course, this was the era before Betty Ford Clinic and things like that. I guess the help just wasn't there. I don't know, for whatever reasons. I understand a lot of her friends had abandoned her because, frankly, Judy was so high maintenance and so difficult. And Charles said it was sometimes trying even for them, but they loved her and they put up with a lot and they understood where she was coming from. And there was one time Liza sent a record album. It was a new record album she had just recorded to the house. She knew Judy was staying there. And when people ask me, well, why wasn't Liza helping her mother? You know what my suspicion is, and I think Charles more or less confirmed this. Judy, out of pride, did not want Liza to know how bad it was. So I think that's the reason, the truth. But anyway, they said it was very interesting because Judy was listening to the record, not like a mother listening to her daughter, but like a professional listening to her colleague. And Judy was critiquing it, going, okay, now she did well here. That was good. That was good. No. No, that note wasn't good. That was good. Okay, that didn't work. That worked. Okay, now she did really good here. No, that's excellent. That's excellent. So they said it was fascinating to watch Judy critique Liza's record. And remember, they also told me Mickey Rooney kept calling the house. And yeah, she loved Mickey, but sometimes Mickey could be a pain in the butt. And he was trying to talk Judy into doing these Mickey and Judy dance and voice and dance schools, talent schools across the country. And Judy be like, and so she got off the phone. She go, I wish he would stop calling me and leave me alone. So there was that. And then, oh, this is going to be a good way to wrap this up. Judy wanted to thank Charles and his partner. She had no money. It was time for her to go. She needed to leave. She needed to go back to New York. And the only way she could thank them was to give of herself. She put the Carnegie Hall album, the famous 2-record Carnegie Hall album, on their stereo set. She went to the top of the staircase while Charles and his partner sat on the couch down below, and she performed in full voice, full 500,000 watts of Judy Garland. Like they said, she performed for the two of them like she was performing for a 30,000 seat amphitheater. And she poured her heart out, and she gave a full concert performance from beginning to end just for the two of them. And I sat there mesmerized, sitting in that living room and looking up at that staircase, having been in the guest room, looking out at the pool where she swam. And I just said, oh my God, can you imagine Judy Garland doing a concert just for you? Full, all out. Only equivalence for that to me to be would, well, if Barbara Streisand knocked on my door and said, Chuck, I want to sing for you. And I'd be like, well, okay. So anyway, today would have been the 102nd birthday of the marvelous Miss Judy Garland. And those are, well, they're not my stories. They're kind of secondhand through my friends to me. And I'm happy I can share them with you because I love Judy Garland. I know she was the single greatest talent to ever come out of the Hollywood studio system. I mean, Judy, her voice was a given. Probably the most magnificent voice anybody ever had. Barbara Streisand even said that in her autobiography. She said, I'm a very good singer, but Judy was a great singer. And I've often thought if Judy could not have sung a note, she would have been still one of our finest dramatic actresses. Watch her dramatic work. She was breathtaking in her depth and range. Watch her comedy. Lucille Ball herself said, Lucy said, you know something? I'm not funny. You want to know who's funny? It's Judy Garland. When I stand next to Judy, I look like a mortician. Judy was a gifted comedian. She had magnificent timing. And you know something else? Judy could dance. She never gets credit for the great dancer she was. This is a woman who danced with Gene Kelly and Fred Astaire and held her own with them. I can't think of anybody who had the talent that Judy Garland had. And I'm just so grateful that we have her movies and we have her recordings where she can just live on forever. So anyway, this has been my tribute to Judy Garland today. And I just want to thank you all for joining in. I haven't even thanked people like Kathy and Joyce here. My little thing here, my little scroll is struck. I wanted to roll, see who else was here. But thank you all for joining me. And please like and subscribe my channel, Chuck's Captivating Chronicles. I'm going to get some more new videos up, great old Hollywood stories. And please be here for Chuck's Captivating Chat every Monday. Let's see, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. So thank you so much. Goodbye.